You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, General Hospital fans, we have got Kristina Corinthos hit with a massive shock that ties back directly to her vendetta against Ava and the blackmail that's now going on. And Kristina could make a huge decision to pay for her crime against Ric and Elizabeth when she was aiming at Ava. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we're going to talk about how and why Kristina may actually commit herself to Shady Brook to stop Ava's blackmail. And hey, please click that subscribe button if you're not following us. So just randomly, Diane seems to have forgotten that Molly and Alexis have the same last name. So she wrote Davis on the envelope that put the commitment papers inside. And then, of course, she dropped it. So Molly now has the commitment papers that Diane drew up for Alexis to have Kristina committed against her will. Alexis, you remember, changed her mind. She refused to do it, and she told Diane to shred the legal papers, but she didn't. So Marco saw them, and now Molly's got them in her hand, and she's obviously going to see Diane's the lawyer that drew them up, that Alexis is the one involuntarily committing her sister, and that Kristina is the one who's supposed to be locked up at Shadybrook. And of course, Molly's going to be horrified because this makes zero sense to her. She's going to fill in Cody, who is there when she finds the papers, and then Molly's going to run off to try and find out what is happening and why Kristina is being targeted like this. And I'm sure initially that she's going to be in protective mode, like something's being done to her sister. Little does she know. And so there's a few things that we think are going to happen with this twisted storyline as we get into the meat of May Sweeps next week. First, looks like Molly takes the papers and runs straight to Kristina because Molly's probably thinking she has the right to know and she wants to protect her. And General Hospital spoilers for the end of this week promise that Kristina gets a shock, and we see her looking at a document wondering, what the hell? And of course, she and Molly are both going to be wondering, what the hell? Why would Alexis have Kristina involuntarily committed? But you'd think that Molly's sister would have a little bit of an idea. Kristina might have an inkling, wonder if mom knows. So next, Molly and Kristina are going to contact either Diane or Alexis or both, because both their names are on this bizarre document Molly found that makes no sense to her. And, if they confront Alexis, I'm guessing she's going to want to talk to Kristina privately. Not only is Alexis trying to protect Kristina from prison, but trying to protect Molly from being furious at her sister. And that's still back to protecting Kristina, though. I do expect Alexis will tell Kristina she's being blackmailed by Ava, who has proof that she cut the brake lines on Ric's car thinking it was her car. And this is a really big deal because Alexis just told Kristina, you got to drop your grudge against Ava. But hearing this should only make that grudge worse, right? From there, Alexis will probably explain that committing her was part of a legal strategy that she and Diane were discussing to keep her out of prison if Ava decided to turn her into the cops. Because if you remember initially, Alexis refused to pay the blackmail, and then Diane was like, all right, well then let's commit her, and then we'll shut Ava down and hopefully avoid her, going to Pentonville. So you can bet that Kristina is going to be outraged that Alexis has bought Ava's silence, and even worse, she's embezzling to do it. Basically, Kristina's criminal mess has now made Alexis a criminal as well. So in the end, not only does Kristina want to avoid prison, obviously, but doesn't want Ava to get the money that she needs so desperately. And of course, Alexis also is going to be dealing with a threat from Ava demanding more money at the end of this week. She wants more and she wants it sooner. So by the time Molly talks to Alexis, I imagine her mom's already going to be at the end of her rope with Ava. Diane may get involved and explain to Kristina the whole legal strategy and why Shadybrook is the best answer to keep her out of prison for nearly killing Ric and Elizabeth, and probably a third charge for attempt on Ava because that was the intent. So Kristina may agree to be committed before criminal charges can be filed. Ava and Alexis are kind of at a legal stalemate, just by the way, on what they can do to each other. So it is absolutely illegal for Ava to blackmail Alexis. So Ava's doing a crime. And if Alexis was paying the blackmail with her own money, that'd be legal. It's perfectly legal to pay blackmail. The problem is Alexis is stealing from Ace Cassidyne's trust fund to do it. So Alexis is also in legal deep doo-doo. And that means Ava really can't press charges because Alexis may go, all right, we're just going to both go down for this. So, Ava can't go to the cops because now she's doing an illegal thing. But Ric can, especially if Alexis cuts off the money train or tries to screw him over. And I'm sure Kristina and Diane are going to insist Alexis stops paying her. And in the end, Ava's probably going to get away with the blackmail. She generally gets away with most of her crimes, but she would still lose the chance at future payouts, which is a punishment in itself because she is so gosh darn broke. Plus, Sonny may lash out at Ava if Kristina and Alexis tell him about the blackmail. But let's be real. Even if Sonny comes at Ava, I expect her to clap back that his maniac daughter tried to kill her. And she wouldn't be wrong about that. So in the end, Kristina has three choices. Number one, let Alexis continue to pay that blackmail money to Ava. Number two, confess to the cops and just face however many years in prison that she gets because she did the crime. Or number three, get checked into Shady Brook while Diane works her legal killer Miller magic, And all of this coming out means also, of course, Molly's going to find out Kristina tried to kill Ava and almost killed Ric. Instead, big question, very important, who tells Molly the awful truth? The best thing is for Kristina to do it and beg forgiveness, because if Molly hears it from her or Alexis, it's bad, but it's not the worst thing. But if Molly, mentions to Ric that her mom drew up papers to commit Kristina, Ric may realize, okay, the blackmail jig is up and he's just going to tell Molly the truth and get out in front of it. Kristina nearly killed him. We all know Ric wants to tell Molly, and Ric can also tell Molly he didn't want any part of this blackmail. That was all Ava, and Ric can truthfully say he wanted to pick up the phone and call the cops because Kristina is clearly a danger to society and needs some help. But he can say Ava and Alexis convinced him to let them sort it out between them. He can kind of play the victim card. This is Ric Lansing after all. But it's not going to be too long before Molly is furious at everybody. Alexis, Kristina, and Ric, Ava too. So Molly may walk away from Kristina for being rash and destructive and almost committing 2 murders. Basically, the last rash and destructive thing Kristina did, resulted in the baby dying. And now here we have, and Molly could have then lost her dad. So this is going to be very bad for their sisterly relationship. Molly may also bail on Alexis for enabling and covering for Kristina yet again. And Molly may walk away from Ric too if Alexis convinces their daughter that Ric was lying to her for his own selfish reasons. So we're basically on a countdown now to see if Kristina packs her bags for Shady Brook to save herself from Pentonville prison and her mom from paying blackmail. Unless they can find a way to shut down Ava without keeping the money train going, those seem like the 2 likeliest outcomes.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.